So with the Wolfman coming out, I've decided that for the first time ever, I'm gonna watch the original, as you can see behind me, Universal Monsters, The Wolfman. I've never seen this myself before. I got this from a box set from CX. I'll show you here. Nice little box set from CX. It's also got Dracula, Frankenstein, and Bride of Frankenstein. So I'm gonna check those out as well at some point. But because the Wolfman is coming out tomorrow, I figured I'd watch this one now and see if it's any good, and then maybe if I hopefully, fingers crossed, I get to go watch it tomorrow night. I might do the new Wolfman film, and then we can see if it's any good, or in comparison to the original, what one's better. Anyway, I'll let you know how this one goes. Let's go. Right, so I've been relegated to the bedroom, but I've just watched this, and this film is bloody amazing. Like, I didn't expect to be as good, or me being as invested in it as I was. It's a tragic tale. That's all I can say. It's a tragic tale. A guy who gets bitten by a werewolf, becomes a werewolf. It's the same as American Wolf in London and all the films that come after it, basically follow that same storyline. It is a werewolf films are a tragic story. They're never, well, some of the newer ones they are, but like the good werewolf, all the best werewolf films, it always like ends in a bad way, where usually the guy that's kind of like the hero that becomes the villain usually meets a dodgy end by the end, like the end of the film. Like, that's just how werewolf films are. This one is definitely not an exception. It's kind of like the original. This is like the first. I think there was one before it, like a French film or something. But this is the kind of one that everyone sees as the first and definitive werewolf movie. So where do we go, the Wolfman? So basically, it's about a guy called Larry who comes back to a village that he's kind of left for a while. His dad sort of owns a castle in the village, and they live in this castle. One weird thing is that dad actually looks a lot younger than he does, which kind of threw me off a bit. Because Lon Chaney Jr. is kind of like got a quite distinctive look about him, and the guy playing his dad looked about 4 or 5 years younger than Lon Chaney did, so that was a bit weird. But yeah, so it's basically lives in this village, meets this girl. The girl, who seems to know a lot about werewolves, which is a way of sort of getting the information out there, get her to tell a lot of it. He goes to see her, meets her, kind of gets a bit infatuated with her, goes and sees her. She then gives him this like cane, like she doesn't give him, she sells him a walking cane because it's his way of like talking to, because she works in like an antique shop. And it's got like a wolf's head on it. It's got the pentagonal star on it as well. And it's made of silver. And she kind of tells him about werewolves and the lore of werewolves and the pentagonal. And if a werewolf sees a pentagonal on someone's hand, it means that's the person he's going to kill. All that sort of stuff, you know. And then, even though she's engaged, she agrees to go to see gypsies with him, with another friend of theirs, to get their fortunes told. And when their friends in the booth get a fortune told, the gypsy looks at her hand and sees the star. So we know the gypsy's a werewolf. And the gypsy is being played by Dracula, Bela Lugosi. And I was like, I didn't know he was in this. That's even brilliant. It's sort of linking to the Universal thing. Like Hammer had all the same actors. I think Universal did the same thing. They had all the same actors playing different roles in different films. But I was like, wow, I didn't know he was in it. So I was quite shocked by that. And talking to people I didn't know was in it, there's a copper that turns up later. I think he's a copper called Colonel Montford. And he, after me watching him for about 20 minutes trying to work out where I knew him from, because I was determined I was going to work it out because he was so familiar to me, he's one of the old men in Trading Places. You know, the ones that do the bet to swap Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd over. The two old men, it's the one with the white hair, him. And I was like, oh my God. When I worked it, I was like, that's the guy. So that was brilliant. And this film was made in 1941, by the way. So it's a good, 40 years apart from Trading Places, maybe? A little bit more than that. But anyway, so yeah, so he then, they're at this thing. The gypsy turns out to be a werewolf. And then he goes and hunts that girl as she's trying to find them. The two have gone off, even though again she's engaged to someone else, but she goes off with old Larry. So yeah, goes looking for them, and then the wolf attacks her and kills her. Larry hears this, goes running to find out what's going on, and then sees the wolf like attacking this girl, which is basically they've got a dog. It's all done behind a tree, so you can kind of you can't really see it properly. It's basically they've got a dog to sort of bite this woman's arm like that. But anyway, Larry turns up, gets the dog, wrestles the dog, beats the dog to death with his silver stick thing, his silver cane with wolf's head on it, beats it to death with that. and in the process gets bitten. And of course, we now know that Larry's going to become a werewolf, because if you get bitten, survive a werewolf, you become a werewolf. And then we sort of get, it's all the sort of like, Larry then goes back home and he says he killed a wolf, and then they go back and find the body. It's actually a man laying there. So they're all like, well, what actually happened? But no one really sort of investigates to arrest Larry for this. Now everyone's kind of like just in mourning for this guy dying. And then there's like a funeral, a gypsy funeral. And at the gypsy funeral, this old gypsy lady sort of grabs Larry and says to him, look, you survived the wolf attack. You're going to become a wolf. Like, you're going to become the werewolf, and you're going to kill people and all this sort of stuff. And she gives him like a necklace to put on himself, but he instantly gives that to his not girlfriend, the girl that's engaged to someone else. She gives it to her, which is stupid. That's supposed to protect him. So we've got that going on, and then we've got her then telling him sort of like, the only thing that can kill a werewolf is silver, which is why that club thing works. You're killing with silver. If it's a bullet or if it's a knife, it's fine, but the club thing worked just as well. The cane worked as a club, it worked. That's why he died, and that he's going to become the wolf. So then Larry goes home, starts thinking about becoming the wolf and that, and then sure enough, next night he becomes the wolf and he goes out and kills someone. And the way they do the werewolf transformation is very, very clever in this film. So obviously they don't have the effects. They couldn't do like the face changing like you get in later films like American Werewolf, because that stuff was invented in American Werewolf in London. But what they do instead is that you got Larry sort of like thinking about the werewolf stuff. He goes home, looks in the mirror, lifts up his thing, he looks fine. Then he feels his legs for his trousers, and he pulls up his trousers leg, and his legs are quite hairy. And they do this thing where they sort of layer film over film, where you sort of see his legs slowly get more and more hairy, and then suddenly you see the feet change into sort of like, he's gone from like normal feet that are hairy to these like paws almost on his feet. And then you sort of see him stand up and walk, and then you see him in the woods walking, and then they pan up and you get that famous scene, which is just here. And that is iconic. That him coming around the tree, that's very iconic. So yeah, he's then now the wolf, and he kills this gravedigger, and this starts the villagers all sort of like, they don't believe it's him that's done it. They think there's a monster out there or a wolf, so they're trying to hunt this wolf down, and they sort of set traps and that for it. And then later on, like, Larry goes out on another wolf. So obviously Larry wakes up the next morning, realizes someone's died, instantly thinks it's him, but he's like, doesn't know what to do about it, and then sort of goes off in this like panic of like what to do. And then you get him, obviously the next night, same thing happens again. He goes out on the hunt, gets caught his foot in a bear trap, and the gypsy lady saves him again and says to him like, you need to sort yourself out. And then I think the gypsy lady, she knows a spell to kind of turn him back. So even though he's the wolf, he's got his foot in a bear trap, she then turns him back to human and gets his foot out. And all the people still hunt it, can't find, obviously they can't find the monster. So it goes on to the next night. Larry then has this like moment where he talks to the sort of, they're kind of like the village elders, I suppose, in a way. It's kind of like more modern, but they're kind of like the doctor and the copper and the policeman, all these other like various sort of high up people in the village are sort of all with Larry, and he says to like, could a man become a wolf and all that sort of stuff. They kind of don't believe him of what he's saying. They still think it's just a wolf out there trying to kill people. So they go back out to hunt it out the next night. And he then like talks to his dad, confesses to his dad that he thinks he's a werewolf. His dad then ties him to a chair to try and prove he's not. He ties him to the chair, says, I'm going to go out and hunt this wolf. You'll still be here, so we know it's not you. And then you can put your mind to rest, it's not you killing people. So of course the dad goes out with the hunting party. And around this time, oh no, sorry, just before that, Larry goes to see the girl that he's kind of liking, and he sees the sign on her hand, meaning she's going to die next because of him. So of course that's when he panics and goes and tells his dad, and then gets tied to the chair. So I forgot that part. So the dad's out. The girl then goes out because she's worrying about Larry and stuff. So she goes out into the woods, and of course Larry becomes a werewolf in the chair. We don't see it, but he becomes a werewolf in the chair and breaks out of the chair. We don't see any of this, but we can kind of guess it's happened because suddenly Larry's in the woods as a werewolf, and he finds the girl and he's trying to kill her. And the dad then finds Larry and he beats Larry to death with this, because he's got Larry's cane, because Larry said to him, look, take my stick, take this like silver wolf's head stick thing, and take it, which is kind of like a shillelagh, like a kosh. Takes this thing and goes off. So then Larry's dad's obviously got the cane, so when he sees Larry, he starts beating the living crap out of Larry, and they have a bit of a fight, and that they're all rolling around. And one thing I will say is that Larry as a wolf is scary. There's that makeup, the facial expressions, the body movements, and the way he sort of. There's one thing I didn't mention earlier, actually. The way he walks, he goes up on like his tiptoes almost, and it gives the effect of like a dog's foot. So now the dog's got like the sort of claws and paws are here. Then it kind of goes up a bit like that, and then that like that again and up again. That's how they make him look. He's walking, so he's walking like that, which I thought was genius. But yeah, so they have the fight. So Larry's dad had the fight, and he kills his son. And then the gypsy lady appears from like nowhere again, and she puts this spell, and of course Larry turns back into Larry from the wolf, and the dad realizes, oh my god, I've just killed my son. He's upset. The girl comes back, sees it's Larry, she's all upset, and the film just ends. And I suppose it's that whole theory that when the monster's dead, the movie's over. And it's tragic. It's like everyone ends unhappy. It's an unhappy ending to a movie. It's because Larry's dead. He didn't want any of this. None of this is his fault. He's just a normal dude who then tried to save a girl and gets bit by a wolf. It's not his fault. And then you've got like the girl's obviously was friends with Larry. She's now distraught. The dad's distraught because he's killed his own son. It's a horrible ending to a film, but it's a good film. Because that's the only way these films end. Werewolf films end tragically. 99% of them end in a bad way. Like this one, American Wolf in London. Obviously, David ends up dead at the end. Sorry for spoilers. I'm trying to think of, yeah, like the remake of this. It kind of made him a hero at the end because he fights another werewolf and all that to save the girl. It's a bit weird. And then you think of things like Jackson's Wolf, and he kind of gets away at the end, so you see him disappear off. But most werewolf films end tragically, and this is not an exception. Obviously, this is the one that started it, so obviously most things have followed the vein. So whatever you see in later on werewolf films, most of it's come from this, I think, because a lot or mythology, but like a lot of the tropes of this, like that he's the doomed soul, basically. Like he starts off as the hero. He's kind of like, he's not really a hero. He's not really a nice guy, really, because he's basically flirting with another man's fiance, and he's really flirting hard. He's a horny devil. This guy, he's proper horny. But it's that whole. He's kind of like the good guy. He's the guy you want to succeed. The guy you want to not have anything bad happen to him, and then he becomes the villain because the wolf is the villain, and he's technically the villain, and he dies at the end. He gets killed by kind of like the hero in the end of the day. So it's weird how the hero becomes the villain. And it's the same actually. When I was watching this, it was like, because I love American Wolf in London, it literally echoes the same thing. So that's almost like a remake of this in a way. A guy comes from somewhere else, gets bit, and then, trouble ensues. But it's the same ending, sort of that whole sort of tragic, like that hero becomes the villain and dies the villain. And it's just mental, really. But but this is a great film. So one other thing I will say about it is that visually it is stunning. Like the backdrops they use, the prop work in it, or the sort of the forest is, considering it's all done like a sound stage, phenomenal. Like the look of the film, it's creepy. It's got a vibe. It's got a good vibe to it where you feel good in it. Like the artwork, watching this film in the background was stunning. Like just like the black and white. This film in color would not have been anywhere near as good as it is in black and white. I love this. Like I wanted to buy the NECA figures of the Universal Monsters, and you can either buy them in color or black and white. I want to get them in black and white just from watching this film because I've seen both of them. The black and white looks so much better because it's true to this. So I might buy the NECA figures of all of the sort of classic Universal Monsters in the black and white. I've decided now. That is my decision made after watching this movie. So I'm glad I watched it. But seriously, if you're a big werewolf film fan, you have to watch this film. It's the one that started it for a start. Also, it's kind of like just so visually stunning to watch. Definitely get it. This was in CX. That's the place I generally go to for physical media. Now I don't tend to buy new. I'm a bit of a cheapskate, really. I like to buy cheap. But I do CX and I do charity shops, and it's definitely worth having a browse around your local CX and your charity shops, because you never know what you're going to find in those places. It's just like gold. I did a video recently on here where I did all my favorite like DVD box sets that I own, and a couple of them are from charity shops or CX, which is my new. Every time I'm in town, I go in CX and I browse. I don't look for anything particular. I generally just browse. So there we go. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I'm really I hope you guys watch this with the new film coming out, which I'm hopefully going to see tomorrow night. I'm then going to sort of do a little. If I do go and see it tomorrow night, I'll do a review on here of the new Wolfman, and I'll talk about if it's different to this and that. That's while I'm doing that review as well, and I'll let you know if it's worth watching the new one or if it's better or worse than this. But we'll find out. Well, guys, have a good evening. Beware the moon, even though there's no full moon in this. That's one thing I've got as well. There's no full moon. The whole full moon thing, isn't it? They mention about it's only certain times of a month that he'll turn into the wolf, but they don't mention full moon. So that must have come later in a different movie or different thing, like later on down the movie line. Anyway, enjoy yourselves and good night. Oh, and like and subscribe. And if you really did enjoy this video, please like and share it, and that it really would help me out. My kids are kind of like excited because we're getting close to 500 subscribers, and they think that makes us famous somehow. So I don't know. But anyway, cheers, guys, and I'll see you later. Bye.